As is the case so many times when kids are given a project to complete, they become anxious and excited to explore.
3 cheers for the red, white, and blue.
But that excitement has given way to reverence this Memorial Day weekend, as respects were paid to the fallen men and women who gave their lives for the red, white, and blue.
It's taught me about that you don't get freedom really easily. You have to fight for it.
Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and campfire volunteers from throughout San Diego came to Fort Rosecrans Cemetery in Point Loma to place American flags on each of the 72,000 grave sites for Monday's Memorial Day ceremony. Every flag representing a name.
Wesley E. Simpson.
And according to Boy Scout Jesse Swift, an amazing story.
And I did look at many of the tombstones, and I saw some dating back to 1805. And all the Medal of Honors. It's just amazing to see what our country's done.
For many, the silence surrounding America's fallen heroes has never been so loud.
It's still important that we remember the sacrifices that they made to give us the freedoms we enjoy today.
Scoutmaster Ina Gibson believes that while many of the children are impressed by the history at their feet, it was the war with Iraq that really piqued their interest.
I think there's a great deal of gratitude. We have a number of active duty military dads in our troop, and I think that's raised their consciousness about what it means to be an American, what it means to have freedom, and the prices that have been paid for that freedom.
Captain, U.S. Navy, World War II.
Teaching some very dedicated kids the true meaning of Memorial Day.
I think it's very important. If they are not recognized like this, then I think, what is the reason for them fighting? I see the freedom part that they're fighting for, but what is freedom without recognition?
To do the best is good enough in art.
San Diego artist William Gambini has been doing the best for most of his 85 years.
I don't have a style. What I do have is an expression in painting, and that's what I know best.
As a boy, Bill was surrounded by art and music, but it wasn't until he was in his early 20s that he knew art was his calling.
To the time that I was somewhere in a hospital in France during the Second World War, when I woke up, the first thing I could think of was to paint.
And paint he did, influenced by the people around him and music.
And we had, essentially, jazz. We had, I believe, the best.
This is called the Professor. This is not a sculpture. This is called a construction, according to Mr. Gambini.
Bill believes all his work is a flat surface.
That's my intentions, to try to keep it two-dimensional so that the viewer doesn't have to go around.
Vivid colors and interesting shapes, it's called abstract expressionism.
Vertical, horizontal, curve, and diagonal. So that's your really, essentially, the visual scale.
Bill works almost every day and has no plans to stop painting and constructing.
I don't know what I would do without it. It's like having a friend continually on your side.
With photojournalist Hendrix Nowells, Jeannie Cavett, 10 News.
I gotta go. Gotta get to work.
There's a saying among postal employees: the mail never stops. Well, that goes double during the holidays. Just a glimpse of the Christmas madness at the downtown post office.
Merry ho ho ho.
Bah humbug.
I feel just like Santa.
Rain, snow, or sleet, or something like that.
And this year, you can add additional condos and apartments to that list.
It's just booming down here.
Postal Supervisor Karen Parker says the building boom downtown has increased mail delivery from 14,000 to 17,000 residences in the past year, increasing overtime and delivery time. Because in the end, all people want mail carriers to do is
bring me the presents.
What's up, Michael? What's going on?
And possibly the best at that is Steve Peters.
I have actually 740 deliveries. I've been working so much overtime. It's crazy.
It can take up to 10 hours a day.
Right back, gotta make another trip.
Again and again, because he loves the job and the spirit of the season.
They're trying to walk it out of me, but I still have it. I still have the spirit.
But if anybody can handle a holiday rush, it's Steve. He's been on this route for 10 years, and he knows everybody.
What's up, Mike?
Just one problem. No Santa hat.
Well, you know, the Santa hat gets kind of hot, believe it or not.
No hat, but there is this bouncing Christmas tree type thing back at the office.
It's still early. We might get a better one than that, though.
We can only hope. But in the meantime, Steve's on the move. With photojournalist Hendrix Nowells, Fred Blankenship, 10 News.
Turn off the lights and light a candle.
Like romance on Valentine's Day, candle sales are on fire, with sales topping $1 billion in this country last year alone. And candles aren't just for decoration anymore.
Those same tapers that your mother and grandmother used sat on that table for the entire year, and you pulled them out twice. So I don't think people until the last few years have really been enjoying burning a candle.
But one family says burning candles has destroyed their home and their health.
Confirmed lead poisoning in my blood, confirmed lead poisoning in my bones.
Kip Flanders is suing The Gap for selling candles with lead wicks. His family burned dozens of the candles in their Texas home.
We have areas of our home that have 40 milligrams of lead in them. That's 500,000 times what the EPA would allow to be sitting in a workplace.
Despite a promise by the candle industry in 1974 to voluntarily ban candles with lead wicks, a consumer watchdog group finds there is still lead in some candles.
Those amounts of lead are enough to raise blood levels in children, and in fact are 10 to 36 times higher than what the Environmental Protection Agency says is safe.
So where are these candles sold in San Diego? With our hidden camera, we buy candles from discount stores to high-end candle shops. 8 stores from Pacific Beach to the border.
Certainly a silvery colored metal in the center.
At Expert Chemical Analysis in Sorrento Mesa, our candle wicks are extracted and tested. And sure enough, we find lead.
We did elemental analysis of it, and it was almost 100% lead.
During one of our undercover buys, we found the lead wick candles on the shelves at Max's 99-cent store in Ocean Beach. The religious candles say San Judas Tadeo and are made in Mexico.
One way to tell if the candle wick has lead in it is to rub it on white paper, and you'll see a mark just like a lead pencil would give in the old days.
Other candles we bought had tin and zinc in the wick. Because it's so hard for consumers to tell the difference in metals, though, Public Citizen has a recommendation.
To boycott all metal candles, because there is no way of distinguishing an ordinary metal containing wick from one that has lead. The safest way to protect yourself is do not buy metal.
The manager of Max's 99-cent store tells us.
Where's Mommy's flower?
Before little Caesar Jr. was born, Rachel Fernandez had another baby of sorts, a once beautiful Porsche Boxster, a wedding gift from her husband.
We just knew we were going to have a lot of fun in the car. It was just a two-seater, just him and I.
And their dream car gained added emotional value after the baby was born.
Caesar would tell him, you know, one day it'll be you and I, and I'll teach you how to drive it. And it was just, you know, very special.
But all this reverie ended suddenly in October. Rachel took their prize sports car back to the dealer where they bought it, Pioneer Centers on Miramar Road, for mechanical work and a $250 detail job. Then came a call from the manager of Pioneer Centers saying,
"Your car's been in a major accident."
According to the police report, a 21-year-old employee of Pioneer Centers was driving the car south on Kearneyville Road, listening for a rattle in the car. The driver took the Harris Plant Road off-ramp. He turns left here, careens out of control, and rolls down the embankment. The driver tells police he lost control when he hit loose gravel, but the investigating officer writes, numerous other drivers and 2 police motorcycles drove this route while I was conducting my investigation, and they did not crash their vehicles. He blames the accident on rapid acceleration. The Fernandez then get another call from Pioneer's manager.
And he said, don't worry, we're going to take good care of you. We are going to make you happy.
But Rachel Fernandez is not happy. The dealer sends a $22,000 check for her 1999 Porsche, less than half the car's market value, she says. The Fernandez returned the check uncashed.
I'm not asking to put them out. I'm just asking for what's fair.
And what's fair?
What's fair? Fair is a new car. Fair is what I paid for my car and my expenses.
Most of the dealerships will repair the damage, and you would then be entitled to have market replacement value.
Attorney Tony Diane Donay specializes in auto-related issues and has advice to consumers caught in this kind of fix. Have your own insurance and file a claim right away with your insurance company.
Once you give a claim, you're protected. Even if your insurance carrier is just going to simply go after the person that should be paying, like the business's insurance.
Poor suckers, Manfredi and Johnson. They got out of Stalag 17 all right.
These are the images most of us have of World War II and the POW camps, scenes from movies like Stalag 17. But Frank Berger knows how it really was.
We were hit by ground fire and fighters and had to leave the plane and parachute out into enemy territory.
Same with Jack Rowland.
I landed right in the middle of about 30 tanks.
Then in Budapest, I was again captured by the Gestapo.
I was interrogated and then put on to a forced labor camp.
Both of these men are survivors of Nazi prisoner of war camps.
No one probably knows any better than I do how lucky I am to be alive, because I was stood up to be shot for 3 different times and something always intervened.
Frank and Jack came through with their lives and souvenirs from their ordeal, like this hat Frank made from pieces of sweaters and stray yarn.
One of the guys had a toothbrush that was wore out, so I just took I didn't have a knife or anything, so I sharpened a piece of glass on a rock and carved out this hook, and he used that.
Jack grabbed an SS uniform when General Patton captured the Germans who guarded him.
So they all walked out and surrendered to us. Naturally, we walked into the building and everything, and this is where I got this uniform.
These are not just mementos. They are pieces of history the former POWs want to preserve in a museum at San Diego's Veterans Administration Building. The plan is to display POW memorabilia in the VA lobby, a rotunda well suited for display cases and wall hangings.
And they're off and running at Stalag 17.
A place of learning for generations that only know World War II from the movies.
History goes down to where children in high school and grammar school would like to know about what happened in World War II.
In history, if you don't know history, you don't study history, you don't realize history, you're apt to repeat it.
Marty Emerald, 10 News troubleshooter. Sheriff's deputies are writing tickets in Santee, but not nearly enough to suit many Santee residents. People here in Santee are complaining about speed. They say drivers are just going too fast. Among those complaining, Joel Cherry on busy Carlton Oaks Boulevard. A little faster than 35?
There you go. I keep getting the bureaucratic runaround about our hands are tied by the legal system, our hands are tied by the council people for Santee, and I would just like to see it fixed.
But the fix is a little complicated.
This is a catch-22. No matter what we do, it's going to be wrong.
Santee Mayor Randy Vopel is one of those bureaucrats tangling with the Santee speed problem. And here it is in a nutshell. To set speed limits, cities in California must conduct surveys to determine the average speed on given streets. The city must then set the speed limit at 85% of that average speed. When they do that, law enforcement is allowed to use radar to enforce the speed. When they don't, officers cannot use radar. The street is considered a speed trap. And that's what's happened in Santee. Many posted speed limits are too low. State law says to enforce with radar, the speed limits have to go up.
Not going to happen. Not going to fly. The average citizen will look at me like I'm a state legislator. IQ, room temperature.
Mayor Vopel says state law must change.
I've even been toying with the idea, what if we declared all of Santee a speed trap and used radar anyway, and just let the courts deal with it? That's another way that might be kind of interesting.
Well, it constitutes a violation of law, and I'm not going to ask my deputies to do that.
Captain Glenn Ravel runs the Sheriff Santee substation. It's his deputies out patrolling the streets of Santee and writing what tickets they can.
But if we had all of the elements in place for a valid speed survey, and the speed limit was posted appropriately, we could be out utilizing things like electronic enforcement, radar, which is, in my opinion, and probably a host of other in my profession, the best, most efficient practice to control speed.
It's that or have deputies pace speeders.
Simply adding a second speeding car, although it's a marked law enforcement car or motorcycle, to the equation is, in my opinion, not the safest or best practice.
I am one person who doesn't like the speed, and I'm going to do something about it.
Which brings us back to Joel Cherry, who just wants drivers to slow down.
The bottom line is to get people out here who can legally write tickets. We don't want to bring the speed limit up too far. But if we need to bring it up a little to get it taken care of, so be it.
It is some sort of foil holographic.
The experts at 9ish Printers take a very close look at this year's ornate Super Bowl ticket.
We'll put some pretty little picture in there, and you can pretend that it was something that was a little closer to this actual image.
And they get right to work counterfeiting our troubleshooter knockoff.
It's not too bad.
They scanned the original on a Macintosh.
So this is both sides of the Super Bowl ticket. This side one is the front, and there's the back.
Then start fiddling with the details.
Now I can kind of zoom in here and take a look at how the type came out. That's getting closer to the background blue.
Then it's off to be printed, laminated, and embellished.
I'm going to peel off the backing. I'm going to stick it right on here.
Oh yes, one more detail.
And there we go. We now have a perforated ticket, just like the actual ticket.
Yeah, they're remarkably close, considering that there was not a tremendous amount of effort to get it to this stage. And if somebody really put their mind to it, there's no question that they could make something that looked mighty, mighty good.
Okay. Ready to rock and roll?
But is it good enough to fool the experts?
If somebody wants to counterfeit it, they can counterfeit it and make something that looks similar. They have a very hard time, you know, getting all the pieces of the puzzle together. I'm assuming this is one that you got that's counterfeited, right?
The NFL's Jim Steig knows his tickets, but he also knows the average football fan doesn't and could easily be fooled by these knockoffs.
The problem we've got with all this right now is that, unfortunately, in the state of California, it's legal to scalp. So
Steig recommends buying tickets only from the NFL or licensed brokers and look for the raised holograms, the watermarks on the back, and test the heat-sensitive ink on the ticket's barcode. It fades when you rub it, or at least it's supposed to.
Put it out in the sun. If it melts, then you know it's ours.
Marty Emerald, 10 News Troubleshooter.